What if I told you that marriage, the very thing society glorifies as the ultimate symbol of love and success, is actually the greatest trap a man can fall into? Imagine this. You work 12 hours a day, sacrifice your health, your peace of mind, and even your dreams, only to come home to a house where you feel invisible. Your wife no longer touches you. Your kids barely look up from their phones. Every conversation ends in an argument. And deep down, you ask yourself, how did I end up here? You see, what most men don't realize is this. Modern marriage has been systematically designed to drain men, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. It's not about partnership anymore. It's about control, risk, and sacrifice with almost no reward. And here's the harsh truth. The smartest men of this generation are no longer getting married at all. Stay with me until the very end, because in this video I'm going to reveal the brutal, uncomfortable truth about why marriage no longer serves men in the 21st century. You'll discover why so many husbands feel like prisoners in their own homes, why divorce courts are stacked against you, and why avoiding marriage might be the single most powerful decision a man can make for his freedom and happiness. This is not going to be easy to hear. It might even make you angry, but if you're brave enough to listen, you'll walk away with the clarity most men never get in their lifetime. And if this message resonates with you, don't just sit silently. Subscribe right now. Leave your opinion in the comments because your voice matters. If you've ever felt trapped, unseen, or disrespected in a relationship, this is your wake-up call. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Let us start with the truth nobody wants to admit. Marriage used to be a fair exchange. For thousands of years, men brought resources, protection, and stability, while women brought loyalty, children, and support at home. Each role had value, each role was necessary. But in today's world, that balance has been destroyed. Now men are expected to work full-time jobs, provide financially, keep the household running, and still show up as the emotional rock for their families. Meanwhile, women are told that they don't owe men anything. They can keep their careers, chase their dreams, and pursue independence, all while expecting their husbands to pick up the slack at home. Here's the brutal reality. Marriage has turned men into overworked, underappreciated worker drones. You wake up at 6, grind for 10 hours, fight through traffic, and when you finally get home, what happens? You're expected to cook, clean, help with homework, and somehow keep everyone happy. And for what? There's no reward, no gratitude, and certainly no authority. Think about it. In the past, a man's authority inside his home was respected. Today, it's mocked, dismissed, or outright attacked. Television portrays husbands as clueless fools who can't make a single smart decision. Movies glorify independent women while reducing fathers to punchlines. Even schools teach boys that masculinity is toxic and leadership is oppressive. Society has been running what I call the Authority Elimination Project, a deliberate mission to strip men of their voice inside their own families. And what happens when a man has responsibility but no authority? He becomes a passenger in his own life. He's still held accountable for providing, still blamed when things go wrong, but has no real power to lead or decide. That's the prison modern marriage has become. Respect. That's the word every man craves, the oxygen he needs to breathe. Without respect, men slowly suffocate inside their own lives. And yet, in modern marriages, respect is the very thing that disappears first. Picture this. A man sacrifices 60 hours a week at work to provide his family with a comfortable home. One day, he suggests they hold off on buying something expensive. Instead of appreciation, his wife rolls her eyes and says, "You just don't understand what we need." Think about how crushing that feels. His years of sacrifice, his experience, his judgment, dismissed in a single sentence. This dynamic is so common that most people don't even recognize it as toxic anymore. But imagine if you treated your boss at work this way. Imagine if you told a client, "You don't know what you're talking about." You'd be fired immediately, Everyone knows respect is the foundation of healthy relationships. Yet somehow, in marriage, men are told to accept constant disrespect as normal, and society celebrates it. Women are encouraged to stand up to their husbands, to not let him control you, to make your own decisions. But here's the hidden translation. Disrespect him whenever you want. Undermine him whenever it feels right. Over time, this destroys a man's spirit. He starts to doubt himself. He begins questioning his worth, and eventually he stops fighting for respect altogether. That's when depression sets in. That's when he becomes a ghost in his own home, living but not alive. If you've ever felt this, if you've ever given everything only to be dismissed and ignored, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not crazy, and you are not alone. Society has been conditioning men to accept this kind of treatment for decades. And the truth is, the more silent you stay, the more invisible you become. If this message is hitting home, pause for a second, subscribe, and share your experience in the comments, because your story might give another man the courage to finally see the truth. Now let's talk about the paradox that's destroying men's mental health. You see, modern marriage demands that you carry full responsibility for your family, but it strips you of the authority needed to lead. It's like being appointed CEO of a company, but not being allowed to make a single executive decision. You're blamed if the business fails, but you have no control over the outcome. This is exactly how millions of husbands live today. They're expected to provide financial security, but their financial opinions are ignored. They're expected to protect their families, but their rules and boundaries are overruled. They're supposed to be head of the household in name, but in reality, they've been reduced to silent passengers. Think about what that does to a man's psyche. On one hand, he's told he must succeed. On the other, he's told his voice doesn't matter. This contradiction eats away at him until he feels helpless, resentful, and trapped. And here's where the system gets even darker. When men push back, when they demand respect or try to reclaim authority, they're immediately labeled as controlling, toxic, or even abusive. If they walk away from the marriage, they're branded deadbeats who abandoned their families. If they stay silent and endure, society mocks them as weak and spineless. No matter which option they choose, men lose. From a logical perspective, marriage offers men almost no benefits, but it carries massive risks. Companionship? You can have that without marriage. Children? You don't need a legal contract for that. Regular intimacy? Statistics show it declines dramatically after marriage. What's left? A 50% chance of losing half your wealth in divorce, the possibility of paying alimony for decades, and a lifetime of stress, disrespect, and diminished freedom. So, let me ask you, if marriage were a business deal, would you ever sign that contract? One of the most painful realities men discover after marriage is the phenomenon of the sexless home. Statistics reveal that between 20% and 40% of marriages fall into this category, with couples being intimate less than 10 times per year. Think about that. You give up every other woman in the world. You sacrifice your freedom, your money, your time, only to find that the very thing you thought marriage guaranteed slowly fades away. This isn't just about physical release. For men, intimacy equals validation. It means feeling desired, attractive, and valued. When your wife stops initiating, stops touching you, stops caring, the message is brutal. You're no longer desirable. You're no longer worth the effort. But here's the trap. You can't seek validation elsewhere. You can't step outside without risking everything. Your reputation, your family, your finances. So you stay stuck, a prisoner in your own house, trapped in a contract where you are obligated to provide but starved of affection in return. And it gets worse. Many men try to fix this by communicating more, by showering their wives with gifts, by planning romantic dates. But most of the time, it doesn't work. Why? Because the structure of modern marriage has removed her incentive to keep the spark alive. Once she knows you can't easily walk away, once she has the house, the financial security, and the legal system on her side, why would she put in the same effort she did at the beginning? The ugly truth is that the system itself creates complacency. It rewards withdrawal, and it punishes men who expect more. That's why so many husbands silently endure years, sometimes decades of rejection, resentment, and loneliness under the same roof as the woman they married. The tragedy is that this dysfunction isn't just personal. It's cultural programming. From the time we're children, men are conditioned to accept less, to silence their needs, and to believe that wanting respect is somehow wrong. Schools teach boys that masculinity is toxic, that leadership is oppressive, and that strength must be softened to make others comfortable. Movies portray husbands as fools who can't make a single wise decision, while their wives are shown as clever, capable, and always right. Even the legal system reinforces this. Family courts overwhelmingly side with women in custody battles. Divorce laws strip men of their homes, their savings, and sometimes even access to their own children. Domestic violence legislation often assumes the man is the aggressor, even when evidence shows otherwise. Everywhere you look, the deck is stacked against men. The result? Generations of husbands who walk into marriage already disarmed, already guilty, already apologizing for who they are. They've been told that to be a good man means to submit, to serve, and to sacrifice without ever expecting appreciation in return. And so they do. They give everything. They provide. They endure. They bite their tongue when they're disrespected. They swallow the pain when they're ignored. But there's a cost. Chronic disrespect doesn't just hurt. It destroys. Over time, it erodes a man's mental health until he slips into depression, addiction, or even worse. Some numb themselves with alcohol. Others bury themselves in endless work, and some, tragically, give up on life entirely. Suicide among middle-aged men has risen dramatically, and one of the leading contributors is marital stress. Society tells men to man up, to keep quiet, to take the abuse and smile. But silence doesn't heal wounds. Silence deepens them. And every year, thousands of men pay the ultimate price for a system that refuses to acknowledge their suffering. So, what happens when men reach their breaking point? They respond in one of three ways: fight, flight, or freeze. Some fight back, demanding respect, setting boundaries, raising their voices. But society immediately labels them as controlling, abusive, or toxic. Others choose flight. They walk away, abandoning the marriage and sometimes even their children, desperate to escape the suffocating weight of disrespect. And then there's the most common response: freeze. Men shut down emotionally, stop caring, stop expecting respect, and drift through life like ghosts in their own homes. No option is celebrated. If you fight, you're the villain. If you leave, you're the deadbeat. If you freeze, you're mocked as weak. Society condemns men no matter which path they choose, and that's the cruelest trap of all. There is no winning inside this system. But here's the heartbreaking truth. The solution is so simple, it hurts. Men don't need extravagance or endless praise or a perfect partner. They need the one thing modern marriage refuses to give them: basic respect. A kind word, gratitude, recognition. Simple gestures that say, "I see you, I value you, I appreciate you." That alone could save marriages overnight. But instead, culture has trained women to believe that respecting their husbands is weakness, that acknowledging his authority is submission, that gratitude is unnecessary. And so, men continue to wither in silence, invisible, exhausted, broken. If you're listening right now and this message is hitting you in the chest, know this: you are not alone. Millions of men feel the exact same way but are too afraid to speak it. And that's why this channel exists, to tell the truths no one else will say out loud. If this resonated with you, subscribe right now, share your thoughts in the comments, and let your voice be heard. Not for me, for you. Because the first step to breaking free is realizing you're not crazy. You're waking up. Let's strip away the illusions and look at marriage as if it were a business deal. What does a man actually get in return for signing this contract? Companionship? You can have that without marriage. Children? You don't need marriage for that either. Social approval? That lasts maybe a week after the wedding photos are posted. Now compare that to the risks. Half of your assets gone if divorce happens, years or decades of alimony payments. Child support, even if custody is shared, the potential loss of your home, your retirement savings, and in many cases, your dignity. The return on investment is negative, the risk is enormous, and the opportunity cost is staggering. So why do men still get married? Because they're sold a dream. They're told it's the path to happiness, stability, and respect. But the reality doesn't match the promise. Instead of stability, they get stress. Instead of respect, they get dismissal. Instead of passion, they get rejection. And let's not ignore the psychological toll. Many men find themselves in sexless marriages, starved of the one form of validation that makes them feel alive. They can't seek fulfillment elsewhere without being labeled cheaters, so they endure in silence. The contract binds them, not with love, but with obligation. Imagine signing a deal where you're required to give everything: money, time, energy, loyalty, but the other party can walk away whenever they choose, taking half of everything you built with them. That's modern marriage, and it's why so many successful, educated men are quietly stepping away from it altogether. They're not afraid of commitment. They're not afraid of love. They're simply smart enough to recognize a bad deal when they see one. One of the most devastating parts of modern marriage is how children are weaponized against men. Divorce doesn't just strip you of money, it often strips you of fatherhood. Courts overwhelmingly side with mothers in custody battles, regardless of who's actually the better parent. Fathers who want to be present, who love their kids, are reduced to visitors every other weekend. Think about the emotional weight of that. You work, you sacrifice, you provide, and yet when the marriage collapses, you're pushed out of your children's lives. You become the man paying the bills from a distance, while someone else makes the daily decisions that shape your son or daughter's future. It's not just unfair, it's cruel, and the system knows it. That's why divorce becomes such an easy option for women. They walk away with the children, with financial support, and with society's sympathy. Men walk away with court orders, empty homes, and broken hearts. This is the ultimate trap. A man can lose his savings, his house, and his dignity, but nothing compares to the pain of losing his children. And yet, millions of men are forced into that exact nightmare every single year. Ask yourself this: if the rules of the game are rigged against you from the start, why play? Why sign a contract that gives someone else the legal power to take everything you care about away from you? That's not love. That's not partnership. That's a gamble where the odds are stacked against you, and the house always wins. The truth is, many men would be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled staying single, building their lives, and choosing relationships on their own terms, without the legal trap of marriage hanging over their heads. The saddest irony is this: men are shamed no matter what choice they make. If you marry and it fails, people say you weren't a good enough husband. If you never marry, they call you afraid of commitment or irresponsible. Society traps you in a double bind where every road leads to blame. And yet, many men who reject marriage are not bitter or broken. They're simply awake. They've looked at the evidence, they've seen the risks, and they've decided their freedom and sanity are worth more than a piece of paper. These men aren't missing out. They're avoiding disaster. Because let's be clear, a man who stays single doesn't lose companionship. He doesn't lose intimacy. He doesn't lose the chance to have children. What he avoids is the legal chain that makes him vulnerable to losing everything in an instant. By staying free, he keeps control of his time, his money, and his future. He can pursue his goals without compromise. He can travel, relocate, start businesses, or change careers without needing permission. He can date without the looming fear of a courtroom battle. He can invest in himself, in his growth, in his health, knowing that no judge can step in and take half of it away. This isn't about rejecting love. It's about rejecting a system that turns love into liability. Men who avoid marriage can still love deeply, can still have meaningful relationships, but they do it without signing a contract that hands over their power. The truth is, the happiest men today are often the ones who have chosen freedom over tradition. They live on their own terms, and they refuse to gamble their lives on an institution designed to fail them. From a biological perspective, marriage clashes with male nature. Throughout history, successful men often had multiple partners. This wasn't just ego, it was biology. The drive for variety is hardwired into men, yet modern marriage demands lifelong monogamy, often at the exact moment when attraction within the relationship begins to fade. This creates inner conflict. A man sacrifices every other romantic possibility in the world, only to find his wife no longer puts in effort to remain attractive or desirable. He feels trapped between loyalty and longing, between duty and desire. And when he inevitably struggles, society doesn't empathize. It condemns. He's told to man up, to accept his frustration as the cost of being a good husband. But here's the truth. Forcing men into a system that denies their biological drives doesn't make them stronger. It makes them weaker, more resentful, more broken. Some turn to affairs, others to pornography, others to quiet misery. None of these outcomes create stronger families. They create fractured men and fractured homes. Now look at it economically. Marriage is one of the worst investments a man can make. You pour money into weddings, mortgages, family expenses, and, if it fails, lawyers, alimony, and child support. The ROI? Negative. Meanwhile, a single man can invest that same money into himself, his career, his health, or assets that grow instead of vanish. The most successful men in history often delayed marriage until after they achieved greatness, or avoided it altogether. They understood that marriage wasn't a path to success, but often a distraction from it. And in today's world, where the system is even more stacked against men, that truth is louder than ever. So ask yourself honestly, is it really worth it? Or is freedom the smarter choice? Here's the harshest reality. Modern women are no longer raised to be wives. For decades, society has told them that marriage is oppression, that independence comes first, and that respecting a husband is weakness. The result? A generation of women who prioritize careers, personal fulfillment, and self-image above family. This isn't entirely their fault, it's programming. From TV shows to classrooms, the message is the same. Chase your dreams, secure your bag, and never let a man lead. And so, many women enter marriage not as partners but as beneficiaries. They see it as a way to secure financial stability, social approval, or lifestyle upgrades, not as a commitment to build value together. What does that mean for men? It means you're signing up for an agreement where your effort is demanded but rarely reciprocated. You're expected to adapt to her needs, her moods, her goals, while yours are minimized, dismissed, or mocked. And when the balance collapses, when she decides she's no longer happy, she can walk away with half your life in her pocket. That is why more and more men are asking themselves the forbidden question, why get married at all? Because the truth is, you don't need marriage to love, to have children, to enjoy intimacy, or to live a meaningful life. What you need is freedom, the ability to shape your future without handing over the keys to someone else. And if this resonates with you, if you feel the weight of these truths pressing against everything society told you about love, then this is your sign. Subscribe right now, drop your thoughts in the comments, and join a community of men who refuse to stay silent. Because your story, your perspective, your courage, it matters. And together, we can break free from the illusions holding us back. When you step back and look at marriage from every angle, psychological, financial, biological, and cultural, the conclusion becomes impossible to ignore. For men, it's a losing deal. You give away your freedom, your authority, and often your wealth in exchange for benefits that could be gained without a contract. Ask yourself, what do you truly want from life? Respect, peace of mind, freedom, love that feels real, not forced. None of these require marriage. In fact, many of them are threatened by it. Respect fades when society trains your partner to dismiss you. Peace of mind vanishes when every argument carries the shadow of divorce court. Freedom disappears when you're tied to obligations you can't escape. The truth is, you can have love without marriage. You can have family without marriage. You can have commitment without giving the state the power to dismantle your life. Men who embrace this truth don't become bitter. They become liberated. They focus on building themselves, on choosing relationships that add value instead of drain it, on living life without apology. And here's something most men don't realize. When you live free, when you hold your standards high, women respect you more. They know you're not desperate. They know you have options. And that makes you infinitely more attractive than the man who chained himself into a contract out of fear of being alone. The message is simple. Marriage doesn't define your worth. Your choices, your growth, and your freedom do. The evidence is everywhere. Marriage rates are plummeting across developed nations. And who are the men leading this exodus? Not failures, not the weak, but the educated, the successful, the self-aware. Men who look at the deal, weigh the risks, and say, "No thanks." These men are building businesses, traveling the world, pursuing passions, and living without the constant stress of a crumbling household. They form relationships on their own terms, relationships built on mutual respect, not legal obligation. And the irony? Many of them experience deeper love than married men ever do, precisely because they're not trapped in resentment or fear. Meanwhile, those who ignore the warnings often pay with decades of misery. They endure sexless marriages, disrespect, financial ruin, and the slow erosion of their identity. Some cling to the fantasy that marriage will change, but the system is too broken to fix. It rewards women for leaving and punishes men for staying. Here's the bitter truth. Society will not save you. The media will not tell you this. The courts will not protect you. If you don't protect yourself, no one else will. And protecting yourself starts with one choice: refusing to sign away your future. The path to freedom is an it about avoiding love. It says about avoiding contracts that turn love into leverage. And once you see this clearly, once you accept the truth, you'll never look at marriage the same way again. So, where does this leave you? With a choice. You can believe the fairy tales, the movies, the Instagram highlight reels of picture-perfect weddings. You can walk into the same trap millions of men have fallen into, hoping somehow your story will be different. Or you can wake up. You can see the system for what it really is, a gamble where the house always wins. Freedom doesn't mean loneliness. It means control. It means deciding who enters your life, how long they stay, and on what terms. It means you can love without fear of losing everything you built. It means you can raise children without handing over custody rights to a system that doesn't value you. It means you can be respected, not because the law demands it, but because you've earned it. The happiest men aren't the ones who found the perfect wife. They're the ones who refuse to chain their future to a broken contract. They created their own lives, their own rules, their own legacies. And they never let guilt or shame push them into giving away their power. So ask yourself, will you follow the script society wrote for you? Or will you write your own? The choice, as always, is yours.